The Sith may have been the most well-known dark-side users in the galaxy, but they were far from the only. We already know about the Nightsisters of Dathomir, we're getting to know the Knights of Ren, but there was an ancient cult that went toe-to-toe with the Sith, and they were called the Ascendant. What's interesting about them is that they actually didn't wield the dark side of the Force like the Sith did. Instead, they focused on creating dark technology that mimicked the Force. Most of it would be what Han Solo would consider simple tricks and nonsense. Like Haja in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they used magnetic devices called calling gloves to replace telekinesis. But they were like really badass magnets that could make things float or help its wearer jump higher. That said, not everything they made was smoke and mirrors. They had some artifacts that really worked. The Whip of Sorrows was their answer to the lightsaber. It could feed off the energy of other weapons, draining them while making itself more powerful and then releasing that power in a devastating blast. Thought dowsers were supposedly made of a special material that could amplify a user's thoughts. The Ascendant used them to dominate the minds of others. It was basically their version of a mind trick. They could be used to force someone to give up information or to even harm themselves. If two people held the same dowser at the same time, whoever had the strongest will would gain control of the device. Similar to using a lightsaber, anyone could technically wield one, but if a Force-sensitive person ever got their hands on one, the effect of the mind control would be crushing. It also seemed that the user was susceptible to the influence of a thought dowser, and it would compel their wielders into action if their will wasn't strong enough. But the Ascendant's masterpiece was called the Spark Eternal. Legend had it that it would grant members of the cult the power to transcend the limits of both flesh and machine, making them as strong as the Sith. Hidden away on the planet Barleth underneath a university, a ritual was required to access the spark, which resulted in the death, resurrection, and then possession of the ritual caster. The being known as Eternity was an artificial intelligence of some kind that would control its new body with the consciousness of its owner trapped inside their own minds, but it was able to control all functions of the body, healing wounds and effectively making it immortal. It also held power over seemingly all forms of technology and was immune to the effects of other Ascendant devices. Combined, the technology of the Ascendant was too strong for the Sith to ignore. The Sith attacked the Temple of Barleth and slaughtered their rivals, but many fell to the Host of Eternity, who sealed the Spark Eternal away, keeping it out of Sith hands. There it remained for centuries until the archaeologist Dr. Aphra and her rival Kofan Faris unlocked it once again. Eternity took hold of Aphra and sought to restore itself to full strength. We're in the middle of that comic arc right now, but the Ascendant story has been one of my favorite Star Wars comic arcs in recent memory. I am so intrigued by a cult that sought Force sensitivity in this way, or at least Force-like powers. Alyssa Wong has done a fantastic job trickling out new information about them every issue that changes how I look at them, like the reveal that most of their technology was literally simple tricks and nonsense. But thematically, I love that Ascendant technology, or at least the Thought Dowser and the Spark Eternal, the stuff that actually works more mystically, has serious consequences. Dr. Aphra is often called the Indiana Jones of Star Wars, but really she's far more like an Indiana Jones villain. Her very first scene in the first issue of her comic wasn't even subtle about her basically being Belloc, Indy's rival in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Aphra loves finding ancient artifacts, but she's always hunting them for selfish reasons. She uses them for selfish reasons, and the greedier she gets, the more it comes back to bite her. The Thought Dowser messed up her arm when she used it to make someone stab themselves, and the Spark Eternal has completely taken over her body. Aphra is driven by selfishness, which is the dark side, and now it has quite literally consumed her, just as Yoda warned Luke that the dark side would. I've always been a fan of the Aphra comics, but the past year or so has really been knocking it out of the park. Everything I'm talking about starts in Dr. Aphra issue 15 by Alyssa Wong if you want to check it out for yourself, but that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.